guys, welcome back. So what we're looking at today is lesson 8, which has the name Scale Drawings and Maps. So we're going to be looking at using scales in real world situations. So let's go ahead and jump on in. So a driver traveling at a constant speed on Interstate 90 outside of Chicago. If she traveled from point A to point B in 8 minutes, did she obey the speed limit of 55 miles per hour? Explain. So we can take and use the distance tool to help us with this. So we're trying to go from A to B. Now, if we were in person, we'd be taking and using a ruler. We can measure this out and find what that length is. Here, I'm going to be taking and doing this. So from this point, pretty well straight all the way till about here. And then now we need another one to go from here to point B. So we've got our 2 segments there. And now we need to find the distance for each of them. So that one's 13.7 and this one's 3.3. So if we combine them, 13.7 and 3.3, we're going to end up with 17 units. So this is 17 units is how far she's driven. Now it's telling us for every 2 unit, or for every 2, it is, hang on, double check it. 2 miles is represented by 4 units, sorry. So we've got our 4 units represents 2 miles. So we have 17 miles, and if we divide that, or 17 units, and if we divide that by 4, that is 4¼ units, or miles. So we know the number of miles she went, and if we take the 4½ miles and divide that by 55, so 4.5 divided by 55 equals 0.08. So we end up with 0.08 for the number of miles in a minute, so the amount of time. Got a little off math-wise. So 17 divided by 4 is going to take and give us, like I said before, 4.25. Then we multiply that by 2 because every 4 units is 2 miles. So we have 8½ miles. And if we take 8½ miles, so at 55 miles an hour, so 8.5, we need to know how far that's going to take and go. It'd take about 9 minutes, which means she ended up speeding. So we can see that here. So using the segment tool, created 2 segments to follow the path of the road, which we did. The segment from A to the bend was about 14 units. We got 13.7. Segment from B, the bend, to B was about 3 units. We got 3.3. So the trip was 17 units combined. We got that. And the key on the graph shows that 2 miles is represented by 4 units. Therefore, she traveled about 8½ miles. If she traveled at 55 miles per hour, it would take about 0.15 hours or 9 minutes. So if we have 0.15, we know that that's going to be 9 because there's 60 minutes in an hour. And if we take 60 times 0.15, we get the 9 minutes. So it would take 9 minutes to travel the 8½ miles. But it said she got there in 8 minutes. So that means she had to have been going faster than what the speed limit allowed for. Alrighty. So the next part, a traffic helicopter flew directly from point A to point B in 8 minutes. Did the helicopter travel faster or slower than the driver? Explain. So if we're going from here to here, now notice, the helicopter doesn't have to take and follow the roads. The helicopter gets to fly in a nice straight line. So being as the person driving got there when they have to go a further distance, because this, if we find the measurement, is 16.2. So this is fewer miles than the other route, but he got there in the same amount of time, which means, did he drive faster or slower? He drove. He flew slower. He was going at a slower rate of speed. So the helicopter traveled slower since the direct straight line distance is shorter than the distance along the highway. Since it took the same amount of time to travel a shorter distance, the helicopter traveled more slowly. So when you're taking the straight route, nice and straight, no curves, no bends, no turns, it's going to take, and it should be faster, but if you get there in the same amount of time, you must be going slower. Okay? So your keyword for this lesson is real world. We looked at this scale. We had a scale here. Obviously, this right here is not drawn to scale. This is not showing the 8.5 miles. Our paper, we wouldn't be able to look at that all. So this is a real life example of a scale. So your keyword is real world. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. Have a great day.